Good morning, retailers, and welcome to our Tuesday webinar series. Today, we're going to be talking with Chris Birch, who is the Chief Creative Officer and founder at Modiphius Entertainment. So we're real excited about that. Before we jump into that conversation, though, I want to make you aware of a couple of things. This is a sort of moderated webinar, so you have the option to ask questions through the chat window, which is, if you've not used Zoom before, it's down at the bottom. If you kind of hover your mouse over the screen, you'll see the chat button pick up there at the bottom. And if you just click on that, you'll have the option to either down at the bottom to address all panelists or all panelists and attendees. All panelists means that the only people who see it are myself and Chris. And then the all panelists and attendees means that everyone who's got the chat window open can see it. That's announcement number one. Number two, so we definitely want questions. We want engagement. So if you have questions, it's a great opportunity to ask. You'll have Chris's attention for a few minutes at the end there, especially. But if there's questions throughout, we can sprinkle them in as well. The other thing to be aware of is we just added to this webinar an special offer for those who are in attendance live. You'll be able to purchase the Wasteland Warfare, the Fallout Wasteland Warfare 2-player starter at 52% off for this week, as long as you're live attendee on this call. So without any further ado, I will hand the virtual microphone over to Chris Birch, Chief Creative Officer and founder of Modiphius Entertainment. Chris, take it away.
Oh, thanks a lot. Hi everyone. So I've got a few slides together so we can look at some pretty pictures and not my pretty face, just to talk through some of the cool stuff that's coming up. I'll give you a very, very quick overview of us for those who don't know us. We started 7 years ago, me and my wife, in a little basement flat in London with Acton Cthulhu, our Call of Cthulhu, Savage Worlds, World War II, Cthulhu role-playing game setting, and have since grown to a wide variety of role-playing games and early last year, we started on miniature games with Fallout as well. So that's been a big growth for the company, and you've obviously seen a lot of different products coming from us. We do continue to try and build our relationship with stores and figure out how better to serve you and give you more information. We've got a brand new web store that's coming together at the moment. You'll have seen some new work on modiphius.net, and there's going to be a big retail page there with asset pages for all the game lines. So you'll be able to download web banners, printable flyers and posters, book covers, all the assets that you might need to help promote whatever game or games that you're pushing in store or you want to focus on of ours. We also do have a retail locator, and I'd urge you to join in that. If you go to modiphius.net, there's a retail locator top right that you can click on and sign up for very easily, and check the boxes for the main games that you stock. And we do encourage customers to go and check that out. There's quite a lot of them signed up already, so if you're not on there already, please go and have a look. And I will now move on to looking at nice pictures, because it's always more fun. So give me a moment as we do the technology bit of sharing screen. There we go. Hopefully you can all see that. So we've had a obviously busy year with a lot of Fallout stuff now starting to come through. And for those of you who had the launch range, we've obviously been restocking and learned a lot of lessons from the launch. You know, it's funny going from a miniatures company from a role-playing company to a miniatures company. There's all sorts of challenges, but hopefully we've crossed those now. And you might well have seen some of these sets come your way. So there's like the ghouls set. So we've been bringing a lot of the creatures to the Wasteland that were previously only available online. And this includes 2 glowing ghouls and 3 standard ghouls. And this is for the Fallout Wasteland Warfare game. You've got the Wasteland Vermin set, which includes those tasty rad roaches and very annoying mole rats. 3 mole rats and 6 radroach swarms. And then you also had XO1 and the armored dog mutant XO1 has some alternate heads for Nate and Nora, the sole survivors, so you can switch them out. Something we've also done with this whole, what we call Wave 2, that's been led by the Raiders faction release, is to remove the cards from the individual boxes, which has helped us. What we've done is do one card box that has all the cards in. So when the customer buys that one Raiders Wave card box, they get all the cards for this wave of releases, which is the Raiders, the creatures, and robots. And that also means that we can predict what cards customers have for when we're planning scenarios and narrative expansions. It means the customer doesn't need to buy all the sets, which might be commercial madness, but we think it's also quite fair as well. So they can try out the rules and decide that hopefully they'll buy the sets based on the fact that they're really great models. And that seems to be working, and it really helps logistically. It's really helps speed up our production and delivery. We've actually got our own factory in the UK pumping out resin, and we also have a big third-party partner. So between them, we've been really been able to kind of actually double our capacity. So let's move on. So the other big release at the moment is Strange New Worlds, the big new adventure compilation for Star Trek Adventures, which has been a really great seller for us. So this is a big compilation of adventures which are both set in the original series and also in the Next Generation era. And Star Trek continues to be a really great property for us. We've got a huge number of books, at least another 5 or 6 planned for next year. We've got a great collectible that's coming to retail in the form of the Tricorder. We will be talking about that a lot more, but it's a really exciting wearable role-playing game. So I'll leave that thought with you. So the next things we're looking at is the Institute, which is the next faction release for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. So the Institute adds in, if you know your Fallout lore, it adds in the synths, lots of cool robots. You've got the coursers, who are the kind of human-looking hunters. You've got a scientist there in the blue environment suit on the right. So this is a great new faction for people who like their tech. They've got an awesome grenade that they can throw, which spawns or instantly warps in a synth as well. So this is the main core set, and it's also going to be coming with, as it's part of the next wave, or Wave 3 as we call it, it's coming with the Wave 3 card pack, the Institute Wave card pack, which again has all the cards for the Institute. And in this wave, we're going to be seeing expansions for the previous factions. So you're going to see Super Mutant, Survivor, and Brotherhood of Steel expansions. Also a set of armor suits, a whole load of new armor suit poses, which are T51s, I believe. So we've also got T45s coming. So I'm just going to move on to the next set. This is the unit expansion, which gives you more of the synth 1, the synth Gen 1 and Gen 2 synths. The Gen 2 have kind of almost like their original human body skins on them, but they've been battered and broken up, whereas the Gen 1s are just kind of basically bare metal. So, and then let's look at the next one. This is the character set. So this is really expanding the whole, so it gives you like the whole same 3 sets that all the other factions have had. And of course you can use the individual characters with the different factions as well. So there's a lot of choice for players. So I'm just moving on again. So coming for Christmas, this is slightly dependent on when the shipping arrives. We've got bumped in China, but I'm hoping that this will actually be the December release for us. So it's Kung Fu Panda the board game. I gave a copy to very happy Tom from the Dice Tower, Essen. He's been waiting for it for a long time, for a couple of years. This is basically our next geek mum and dad game. So whilst it's a miniatures game, it's been co-designed with the chap who designed Escape from the Temple. My brain's gone dead because literally got back from Essen last night, but it will then come to me, and our internal team. And so it's a live dice rolling game where you are rolling dice to, let's move on to the next slide, you can see. You're rolling dice to move your heroes around tiles and combating the various minions. There's lots of fun missions. The game will take between 10 minutes and 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the number of missions you play. Can be super quick. The symbols on the dice you roll tell you whether you can move, whether you can fight. Some symbols will trigger special effects by the heroes, and some of them will let you defeat the minions. And it's really fast and furious. You're working against a timer, and it's really, really fun to play. I was teaching some 8-year-old kids at a French game fair in the summer, and they really, really enjoyed it. So I think this is going to be the kind of game that appeals to both gamer groups and gamers with families as well. And I'm just going to move on. So coming in just after the new year, we've got what we call like a bit of a bridge product before the rest of Wave 2 comes. The Institute main sets, the 3 sets, and the card pack should be out again early December. And then these items, this is 2 really fun objective marker sets that are coming through distribution. So as you can see, there's like an ammo box with a gun. There's some sort of food items. There's a pile of fusion cores. There's a battered old synth. And then there's another set here. One of actually my favorites is the dude who literally died and his head's in the toilet. You've also got some mechanic stuff. You've got a Nuka-Cola toy truck with a whole bunch of Nuka-Cola bottles. And etc. There's lots of really fun stuff, especially like the hat and the camera on the right hand side with the typewriter. Some very thematic objective markers that players can collect. So that both of those coming in January. So looking ahead, some blue sky stuff. It's always fun to imagine what's coming. We recently announced that we've got the Homeworld Revelations role-playing game coming in 2020. It's going to be a bit later in the year. We're hoping for around Gen Con time. This is, if you remember the original RTS video game, it kind of came sort of, it was the next sort of next level of RTS games where you could, well, first really one that would use spaceships and you could move around in 3D. It had this beautiful Chris Foss kind of inspired artwork. And I loved the game at the time. So I got talking to Gearbox Studios, the video games company behind it, and who now own it. And they are launching Homeworld 3. They've just done a crowdfunding campaign for that. And so we announced at the same time we're doing Revelations. So this follows this fleet that has to escape their burning world in search of a legendary homeworld. And you're on this big mothership and you have to fight your way across the galaxy. And the video game basically was all these big fleet battles. So what we propose is that the video game was the main battles of the journey, and actually a lot more happened. And so you play the characters of a small ship that survive the escape from their home, that have to fight their way across the galaxy with the mothership and are sent on various missions. And so you're going to see a lot of new secrets in the Homeworld universe, and it's leading into a whole range of products. We've got a great, obviously classic core book, but there'll be a really nice box set that takes you on the whole journey with lots of beautiful components. And it's actually going to teach you the game as you play. So as you open the box, if you kind of imagine a bunch of legacy style components, envelopes and stickers and cards and all kinds of cool stuff. And the idea with this is much like you know what it's like if you buy a role-playing game at a convention. you've got to go and sit and read it in the hotel room for a few hours. So the idea with this is you literally can sit outside on the carpet at Gen Con. You can go back to the hotel room, sit in the bar, and start playing with your group. There's no preparation needed, and the box will teach you the rules as you open each section. And let's go on. And that's enough of the pictures. I'm going to stop the screen share, and you can see my face again. There we go. So the other thing we've got coming in the new year, of course, is Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, which is basically son of Fallout. It's the rules are derived from the Fallout system, but they're by Mark Latham, who you will know from the Mantic's Walking Dead miniatures game. And so he's been working with us on the Elder Scrolls game for the last year. We kind of took some of the kind of core mechanics of Fallout, and it's a similar style of skirmish game. You're looking at around about 10 figures a side, but you can do a simple dungeon delve with just the Dragonborn or one hero that you like. You know, 3 or 4 of us could take a hero each and do a dungeon crawl against an AI-driven Draugr, or we could all assault a Imperial camp, again with Imperials run as AI or the Imperials run by another friend. The game's very flexible. It lets you do versus games where another force can be an AI kind of active terrain. So we could be, you know, Imperials versus Stormcloaks, which is the sort of main setting. There's a big civil war campaign that we're doing. So you could be fighting together and having Draugr and skeletons kind of in the way, stopping us from kind of achieving our goals. And you can also do co-op games and can do solo games, which we're really stressing and going for that narrative angle on the whole gameplay. What you're going to see in March is a rules box. So the rules box has everything you need. It's the dice, rules, cards. It's the complete rules. It's not a starter rule set, just like Fallout. It's a complete rule set. Then that rules box, we're looking at in the region of $45. Maybe we might be able to get it down to 40. We're still playing with costings. You're then going to get, it's our first steps into hard plastic. So we're making these out in China. You're going to have an Imperial starter set, a Stormcloak starter set, and what we're currently calling the Dragonborn Dungeon Delve, which comes with a female Dragonborn and the Draugr and skeletons. There's 8 figures in that set. There's a Draugr, Deathlord, 3 Draugr with swords, 3 skeleton archers, and the Dragonborn herself. So as players, we can just pick the rules box, and I might get the Imperials, and one of you gets the Stormcloaks, and we can build our own factions. If you decide not to get those sets, there's a whole range of sets coming in Wave 1. There's a main starter set for the Imperials and Stormcloaks, which builds on those factions with different types of units. To give you an idea, that you basically have heroes, which have a much more detailed card, much more skills and abilities. And then you have henchmen. Henchmen have a smaller poker-sized card, and you might typically have 3 guys with swords and shields. There's an Imperial, maybe led by Hadvar. And then maybe my friend takes, say, an Imperial Mage and has another 3 swordsmen, or maybe archers. So it gives you a lot of variety, and you can pick and choose your force. What you can also expect in Wave 1 is creatures, so like frostbite spiders, flame atronachs. The next wave of releases includes the Dwemer and the Dark Brotherhood. So they're going to be really exciting. I think kind of 2 of the most popular factions that we saw when we kind of did a survey of the community who signed up, excitedly waiting for the game. You're going to see a mixture of resin and hard plastic. So we're doing the main sets in hard plastic, and the kind of character sets all in our high quality resin. And that means that we can really kind of build up the sort of stock numbers very quickly out in China and bring them in. We are, if any of you know me from, from discussions on the Game Institute group on Facebook, I've been debating the ways that we can kind of ease up the availability of products and make sure you're not getting allocated on your delivery. So we're going to be letting all the distributors know how much stock they're actually getting from our production run. We were hoping to do a pre-order before Christmas, but I'm not sure we'll be able to actually get enough time in for everyone to put a pre-order in. So the very worst case, we have solicitations will be starting before Christmas, and there'll be a sort of cool bonus for ordering by a certain time. But each distributor is going to know how much stock they have, and will be able to tell you if your order will ship 100% or not. Once they run out of that allocation, we actually are holding back about 20 or 30% of our production run for the week of release. And so there'll be a second round of stock available to all distributors at that point as well. So what we're trying to do is reward retailers by pre-ordering early. So you will know 100% that you're going to get that stock, and then can plan your store campaign based on that, and not worry that you're going to miss out. So I think that is the current news and releases that I can share. So I'll hand you back.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. It's a lot of information, a lot of great stuff coming down. Looking forward to that. The Star Wars, or the Star Trek rather, The Adventures looks like an interesting book, and I'm very curious about how the Homeworld is going to play out with the starter box and the core rules. So yeah, it's great. Now is a great time for our retail partners or friends on the call to go ahead and jump in and ask any questions. Looks like we had a lot of people just recently joined, so I don't know how much of your presentation they heard, but if you have any questions for Chris about Modiphius, the upcoming releases that we talked about, or the current product that's out there, please feel free to jump in on the chat. Once again, all you got to do is hover your mouse over the screen a little bit, and then you'll see the chat button down at the bottom. You click that, and that gives you the opportunity to type in a message to Chris or one of us here as well. I just have a couple of questions, general questions about Modiphius and what your plans are for some of these games. So I think I'll go ahead and actually present this question from Evan. Evan says, what systems will the Homeworld RPG use? Dice mechanics and etc.
So it's using our house system 2D20 that we've used for Star Trek and John Carter, Conan, Infinity, and Mutant Chronicles. We do change the mechanics. It's a bit like often most cars from a car company have got pretty much the same engine underneath. They just change the body. So we do try to. It's not just a bland reskin. For example, Star Trek gear doesn't really matter so much, whereas in Conan and Mutant Chronicles and Infinity, gear is very important, and it really matters which sword you've got or which hacking kit you've got. So we do kind of re-engineer the system to quite a large degree. It all boils down to there's always a roll of 2 20-sided dice to beat a target number. But we kind of dial down, up and down the difficulty. Dune, the role-playing game, is also using 2D20, and again is a whole different version of the system that embraces more social orientated play. You don't really have blaster fights in Dune. It's very, very carefully controlled duels, for example. So so that's roughly speaking what it will be. That, like I said, it does use some form of legacy mechanics to a certain degree, more so to help teach the rules to both the games master and the players. It's loosely based on the Star Trek system. So if you like Star Trek, it is drawing on that, but gear is a bit more important. It's been dialed up, and of course you can do fleet battles as well, because Homeworld is a game about big ship battles. So for example, the players might take the role of, say, I might get the destroyers and you take the fighters, and someone else has the capital ships, and we play a few rounds where we're part of this big battle because we're commanding them, but then how well we do in that scene will affect how our ship with our characters are on how well we do when we actually enter the battle itself on our own. So. Nope.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Okay. I was going to ask about the starship combat too, because that seems like a very important feature of Homeworld, and I know Star Trek that's a possibility, but I don't know how different these systems will be.
It's different in the sense that you, I mean, Star Trek, you've got all sorts of different roles on the bridge that are, you know, someone can be managing shields and engineering and weapons, and you don't really have that in Homeworld because they don't have shields. It's a more low tech type of ship. So, you know, maybe there's someone actually in the engineering room trying to patch holes, and you know, someone else might be operating the sensors. We've kept this sort of the idea of everyone playing a role on the ship. It's but the starship combat does flow very well. I do find a lot of times with games that the starship combat can really bog down, and as a result, you don't end up using it. A lot of GMs I know, you know, I've done the same of just, you know, skip past those rules in a game. And so we really wanted it to be something fun. And I think with Star Trek, the team did a great job of making starship combat very flavorful. So, and this will be the same, and allows you to do the bigger games as well.
Great. Jeff McKayan asks, how close are the rule sets between Fallout and Elder Scrolls?
So similar. We still use the 20-sided skill dice, which isn't 1 to 20, it's 1 to 9. And we've tweaked the probability curve a bit to just kind of reflect more the level of skills within Elder Scrolls. We've changed the effect dice to D6s, and we don't have an armor dice anymore. So this is for those of you who know the rules. It's basically we have 4 different colored dice. One which basically does more damage. There's one which is more accurate, or will make you more accurate, and then one which has more effects on it, and 2 which have different levels of damage. So very quickly, when you see what dice your weapon does, you'll know whether it's a heavy hitter, it's going to give you more accuracy, etc. So that's quite a good system. You're still rolling your skill dice and whatever effect dice against your skill target number. We have obviously stamina and magicka is more important in Elder Scrolls than something called VATS in Fallout. So whereas in Fallout we had a nice blue dice that you rolled if you had you were a heroic character, which meant you effectively got benefit of VATS. In Elder Scrolls, the heroes all have stamina and magicka, and can use that to power, you know, in the Dragonspawn's case, shouts, and for for example, the Imperial Mage can throw fire at people, so that would be used to power that. You can use your stamina to boost your various skills, so you might use it to move further, you might use it to help improve your defense or your attack. So it's it's similar, but it's still different enough that it feels like Elder Scrolls. We've been doing a lot of previews with press recently, especially video games press, and they all seem to think it really feels like the video game, and we're really happy that that it's coming across like that. So of course, having worked so long on it, they've had about a year working on it. We've also simplified the AI, so that rather than having an AI card for every single unit, each faction has its own AI now, and we have 3 paths, for example, might or shadow, that define the type of AI, the type of behavior the AI has in the game. So, and as I said before, you can play against every different faction as an AI force as well. So there's lots of variety. Oh.
There we go. All right. Is it is it? I'm sorry. I was going to say it's great to have that variability and the flexibility to do each faction as its own focus of the adventure, and then you have an AI controlling the other factions, so that you have yeah. It sounds like a great flexible system for Elder Scrolls. Very, very interesting to do. Let's see. Jeff McCann also asks, what is the Elder Scrolls planned ongoing release schedule? And he says, hopefully monthly.
Yes, definitely better than Fallout was. So, I mean, it's the interesting thing is, so when we started with Fallout, we realized that we weren't known as a miniatures company. And typically when new miniatures games come out, the fans would often go, oh, you're just going to release a starter set and then blow us off, and I'll invest all this money and there'll be nothing. So we had this cunning plan to release 3 factions all at the same time, and this pre-order that retailers could have the whole of the first wave in month 1 if they pre-ordered, which just meant we had this chaotic, mad rush to produce everything for month 1 rather than a steady rollout over 3 months. It seemed like a good idea at the time to show fans that we had this enormous amount of product for them. So we've obviously learned from that, and what that caused us is some, big delays in production, and then we were, out of stock on some sets for a few months, and then took us a while to build up to speed again. So since then, we've doubled our capacity with our production partner. We have got our own factory in the UK, also producing resin. Five guys hard at work in a bizarre old basement of a monastery, weirdly enough. And there's some stairs leading down to an even more ruined part. So I told them if ever some mist starts coming up the stairs, to get the hell out of there. So, but it's cool, right? So having learned from our mistakes with Fallout, we are planning a regular release schedule with Elder Scrolls. Because we've moved the big sets into hard plastic, which is quite an investment. It means we can bring in much bigger numbers all at the same time, and we're not kind of trying to gradually restock. And we're focusing our resin production on the key character sets, which will be a lot easier to produce. And also we've been able to gear up. We've now had some decent regular releases with Fallout since the Raiders came out. So that's, again, we're planning to keep that rolling, just build up that consistency. There also will be an organized play kit for Fallout at launch as well, which we're just working on at the moment now. The core set is in production, and we're that's going to hopefully be a really attractive set that you'll want to have in your store for launch, that will help you run some really cool narrative games and versus games and co-op games. So and there'll be a lot more of those coming through the year. One of the next big releases, apart from factions, is a campaign box. So the campaign box for Elder Scrolls will let you build a settlement, but in a much more narrative way. So this is, imagine that you've kind of stumbled across a half burnt down village, and you start protecting it, you start rebuilding it. If you rebuild a farmhouse, you're going to get access to more henchmen for future games. If you rebuild the blacksmith, maybe you're going to get better access to equipment. There's also a ruined fort down the road, and if you clear out the bandits from the fort and maybe the Draugr from the dungeons underneath, you're going to be able to rebuild that fort, and actually you're going to have all these really cool scenic pieces that will come through retail. And but the danger is, if you go on a mission, maybe someone attacks your base, your settlement. So it's really important that you leave some heroes and henchmen back at the settlement to defend it. So when you come back from the mission, you'll check whether for various events and narrative events and part of the quest, you might find out that a certain enemy, maybe an enemy you've made before, has attacked your settlement. So we've got lots of really cool fun stuff. We're pushing narrative quite hard with both this and Fallout. We decided that there's a lot of companies that are really great at doing tournament games, and whilst we do support tournament play, and I think one of the big things we're working on is pickup play. which is that, you know, the classic game that you would play possibly in a store as a demo is you want a kind of a quick sort of fun hour game that you can introduce people to the game, and it's making sure that it's simple enough for them to grasp the basics of the game, but it shows off enough of the cool narrative side of the game. We're being very experimental with Fallout and Elder Scrolls, and trying to figure out what is it about narrative, which is a bit of an overused word. It's a bit like multimedia back in the 90s. Everyone said everything was multimedia and it was going to change your life forever. But all it was a crappy CD with point and click pictures. So we're really looking at how we can transform war games. I think, you know, just the fact that we're really pushing hard to make cooperative war games and solo war games and versus war games that just have a completely different angle to them, and trying to figure out how we can make a narrative driven I was going to say tournament event, but kind of in-store event that you can run that is really fun for everyone to take part in, not just the winners, and is really part of the release schedule. So there you go.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a real innovation, you know, to have that kind of co-op experience as a miniatures game or as a skirmish game, even to consider having two players playing on the same side, either against a third or against an AI as a miniatures game. That's an exciting proposition from a player perspective, right? And then, of course, we know the importance of having those the demo scenarios in the store so that the retailer can explain to the player how to run the game, how it works, and then get them excited about getting into the game as well.
Yeah, it's something we're doing with Fallout, is trying to kind of identify the simplest pick up and play version of the game that is that we can show retailers and fans to teach new players, and obviously Elder Scrolls gives us the ability to kind of build that in from the beginning. I do think, yeah, co-op is a big thing for me. I mean, I grew up as a solo wargamer, kind of just figuring out how to create rules that made a challenging opponent, aside from having to just walk around the table and play against myself. But I think, you know, the joke in war games is, you know, two people go to play a war game and one of them walks away happy. And I think you definitely have to look at the huge impact of co-op miniatures games on, board games on Kickstarter. There's been this massive wave of cooperative play. And I think it was only a matter of time before that hit war games. Obviously, Joe McCulloch's Range of the Shadow Deep is a great example of, you know, the huge demand for that type of game. It's you know, really fun solo and co-op miniatures game, and you know what we're really trying to do is I've always liked to be experimental, and even if we get it wrong, I'd rather try, and so that's why we're really pushing hard. Like, we've got 4 big narrative box sets coming for Fallout next year that are going to really push the boundaries of what we can do with storytelling. I mean, one of the things I want to be able to do is, for example, let's say there's some ruins on the Elder Scrolls table, and if my hero goes inside those ruins, he'll find out what happens to his parents, what happened to them, and so maybe he's going to have a minus modifier for the rest of the game, which might lose the game, but it's going to lead to him finding that family heirloom, the sort of magic sword that's so vital to the campaign. And so it's really about you know, thinking about cool things that really draw you into the storyline and give you you know, a reason to play again, a reason to come back to the next game, and a reason to build your little force and see what happens to them and see what their storyline is. So it's we love trying out new ideas like that.
Great. Jeff's also asking, is there any cross promotion on merchandise between you and ZeniMax or Bethesda? Well,
they do a lot of cross promotion for us. They'll often retweet and reshare stuff that we're talking about when we have big launches. They will, in terms of cross promotion on merchandise, we often they kind of leave it up to us to talk to other partners. So we often look for people that are doing other licensed products. You know, I was just talking to Asmodee about, maybe we'll probably do some cross promotion with the Fallout board game. Makes sense, to help each other out. We're fans of each other's products. So we do try and look at any opportunities like that. We've been getting in a lot of the Fallout streamers, people who are playing Fallout online and streaming it, and getting them to try the game. We had a couple of them in the other week to try the Fallout role-playing game, which has been really successful for us, actually. I think that's something I forgot to mention, that I think Impressions managed to get the extra stock in of the special edition of the role-playing game recently, and I believe that should have hit distribution now.
Yes, it was sitting in our warehouse for a little bit while we kind of worked out those details, but it is shipping now, and I think the official release date is tomorrow now.
Fantastic, yeah. So I think
It's available.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, the standard edition pretty much sold out, and there was a screw up on the boxing, I think it was. So thankfully he got the replacement stock in time. So that's really exciting as an expansion for Fallout. And for those of you who don't know what it is basically an expansion for the miniatures game. So if you've got the box set, you can just buy that book and you've got everything you need to play role-playing adventures. It starts with archetypes, so it's an archetype-based role-playing system where you start with a kind of basic a survivor or a super mutant, whatever, and then you build the character on top of that, and then expand them with experience. The game can be played as a typical mind's eye role-playing game. You don't need miniatures for it, but otherwise it does really encourage miniature use, much like D&D does. A lot of people play D&D with miniatures. So it's typically when we write the adventures for it, we kind of have an idea in mind that one in every 3 scenes should involve miniatures in some way. So you can kind of lay them all out and do a battle or an encounter, or you can just role play your way through it like mini games do as well. But then also we have the 2D20 version of Fallout coming next year, which is for the kind of more mainstream role playing fans, and it's much more detailed character creation from scratch. And the team are currently working away and testing that, and that we think is probably a Q3, Q4 release. And so we're going to have 2 versions. The current version is very much aimed at war gamers who could be tempted to try a role-playing game, sometimes for the first time, or just people who like the miniatures. And then the other one is the kind of main edition.
Gotcha. Okay. One question I have is, do you have or have plans for ongoing in-store support through organized play or through the release of, like we've got some tournament stuff, sounds like, coming up for Elder Scrolls and probably also for Fallout, but on the RPG side, do you release organized play? Or?
Yes, so obviously with Fallout, we're currently packing a Raiders organized play kit with some beautiful pink luck dice. So there's 1,000 of those sets that are going to be heading out on the container for Christmas release. We're also, as I said, planning organized play kit for Elder Scrolls, and we have a program of Vault Dwellers for Fallout. We'll be doing the same thing with Elder Scrolls, which is fans that we give them credits to encourage them to come in and play and help support their local store with games. They just need to send us pictures of the game and evidence, and they get points towards getting product on our store. So we really try and help you with in-store promotion. With Vampire, we have a big organized play campaign starting in January. We hope to get some of them out before Christmas. So there's 2 levels to that. One, which is a lot of free chronicles or adventures that anyone can download, and they're very much aimed as a convention or store demo missions. So they're kind of aimed as like being a 2-hour game, and they'll be free to download, and those will build up every few months. We also have paid organized play campaigns starting in January, which is the kind of deluxe version where it's the Anarch and Camarilla are featured, and it's two cities in America competing against each other. It's very much aimed at the more hardcore vampire players who are more embroiled in the storyline. And that's going to kick off in January, and you'll be able to influence the outcome at the end as well. So, and we're kind of been working on some models for how we can best support that, and hopefully that will roll out to other games as well.
Okay, so it sounds like for the Vault Dwellers, that's driven by the person in the store who wants to promote the game just because they love the game.
Yeah.
Is there a way, or how do stores connect with those people, or how do they get them in their store? Is there a system for matchmaking system?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it probably could be a better system at the moment. If a store is interested, they could reach out to yourself, and you could contact us, or they can literally contact our support and say, "Hey, look, we've got a store in Milwaukee. For the sake of argument, we would love to run some Fallout games," and that will go through to the team, and they will find out who is nearby. We've got about 500 people signed up worldwide, which a lot are in America. So there's a pretty good chance that there's someone within fair or reasonable travel distance of your store that we could get to come along and demo it. If the store knows someone who's wants to get involved, then we can sign them up to our Vault Dweller program, and they'll get rewarded for running the games. So it is a benefit to anyone, really. It doesn't have to be one of our team. And so we'll do whatever we can to support that. But I will have a think about whether there's a more easier way. We can probably create an online form for stores to sign up and say, "Hey, I need someone. Send me help."
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Excellent. Well, the information's been great, Chris. I appreciate your time. I don't see any additional questions in there, so I think we've answered everybody's questions, and everybody knows everything about all your products. And if they don't, they can always reach out to us. My name is Scott Bohr with GTS Distribution. I am the category manager for gaming specialty products, and that encompasses role-playing games, miniatures games, and gaming accessories like dice and mats and that kind of stuff. So your company is definitely in my wheelhouse in terms of what we're promoting, and I'm looking forward to the increased success in 2020. You got a lot of great products coming down the line. It sounds really great. Chris, do you want to give an email for people to contact either yourself or somebody at Modiphius?
Sure. Yeah, love to hear from you. If it's a general inquiry, email support@modiphius.com. I always love to hear from retailers, and I do like to hear how badly we're doing, so then we can fix it. So don't be afraid to send me your complaints and have a moan about something. And obviously it's good to hear if we're doing something right. But yeah, really love to hear from you. And if you've got any ideas about something that you think we should be doing or what we could improve on, then yeah, just email. It's just chris@modiphius.com.
Great. Okay, so we will have those email addresses and my own email address also added to the video when it goes live on YouTube. And like Chris, I want to hear if there's some complaint or an issue. I'm much more of a let's hash this out, let's get it fixed kind of person. I'd much rather hear if there's a problem, how we fix it, and then move forward, rather than people just being upset or disappointed in something without voicing that concern. So can't fix things if we don't know that there's a problem, right? So thank you very much for your time, Chris. I appreciate it. Modiphius has been a good, strong partner for us. We're looking forward to developing that relationship even further in the new year as we go forward. So keep an eye on these upcoming releases. You got the Strange New Worlds for Star Trek, the third wave of miniatures for Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the new Fallout Wasteland, or I guess, is it Fallout? What's the RPG title again?
Oh, well, it's just Fallout Wasteland Warfare, the role-playing game.
Okay, I was right then. All right, I just want to make sure I didn't mess that up. That's the special edition that goes on sale tomorrow. Is the official release date. We do have that in stock, so feel free to go into your GTS rep or contact us through the website and order that product in.
Yeah.
I wanted to go ahead and once again thank Chris for being here. Thank our retail partners for being here. Remind you that this week, if you sign up or you order the Wasteland Warfare 2-player starter kit, you'll get that for 52% off rather than the normal 45. And thank you very much for being here. We'll have more of these webinars coming down. We've got a full schedule this year going into December, so it'll be really exciting from my side for the miniatures and role-playing games. And we appreciate your time, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.